Well, now that Tracy's here, I'll let her ask a few questions.
What's up, Tracy? What's happening?
Hey, how's it going with you?
I'm just hanging out,
Yeah.
chatting
I
away.
apologize for being late. It's like I work at a university and they had some events today that I was helping to facilitate, and things went a little later than I expected. So I do apologize.
No problem.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for agreeing to do the interview. So I don't want to piggyback or repeat anything that might have been discussed. So what talking points besides Star Trek did you guys happen to cover?
Star Wars.
Ooh, I missed the Star Wars conversation. Oh my God.
No, I'm kidding. No, we didn't talk.
Darn it.
No,
I'm more of a Star Wars person, so.
we talked.
We'll forgive you for that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm actually.
Although I love Mandalorian.
Oh, the Mandalorian is great.
Yeah, good for you, man.
Yeah.
Did you watch Andor?
Yes, I love Andor. So great.
Me too. That was amazing. And then Serkis was so incredible in there. Andy Serkis when they brought him in. And
Serkis.
Yeah, I loved Andor. I thought it was a great evolution because you can only do there's the bad guys, get the bad guys and shooting and all that only so many times before it's it gets really boring. I think they did a great job evolving the story of it with Andor. Really good.
Oh, the story is.
I need to spend a day just binge watching everything.
Yeah, it's cool. Mandalorian. I like Mandalorian as well. I think Pedro Pascal is really good.
Yes, he is. I've been watching him on The Last of Us. Oh,
I haven't seen that. Let's check that out.
Mm-hmm. Really good.
The video game. That's what I'm into.
Excellent.
I can tell you what we haven't discussed and what is I think you were going to ask about, Tracy, if that's cool. You had a question about Japan and John Taylor.
So as with the photo credits, what was it like? Because I'm also fascinated with photography because I help do some of that at my day job. So what was that process like? Just explain it a little bit.
So that was a weird thing. So after I did my first 6 months of chemotherapy, I was told by the doctors, don't go anywhere. Your immune system is still funky. Don't go to public places. You might catch something and then, whatever. So I think it was the same week I finished, I saw an ad in the paper for a show by Jonathan Taylor. And I'm like, Jonathan Taylor? Who's Jonathan Taylor? I'm like, are you talking about John Taylor? So I called the venue and I said, is that John Taylor from Duran? And they're like, yeah, it is. I'm like, why the hell would they bill it as Jonathan Taylor? That's not... that would have made more sense.
Right.
I'm like, he never goes by Jonathan Taylor. So I didn't even say bass player from Duran Duran or anything. So right off the bat, that show was badly promoted. And he even writes about this show in his book. And so the day of the show, a tropical storm was hitting, and the show was still going on. So even though I wasn't supposed to go anywhere, public places, I went about 3 hours early because I'm early to everything, and stood under a leaky canopy in the tropical storm, wanting to be first in. And I had some of my first 2 solo records with me on cassettes. And then I suddenly noticed that the crew was coming back and forth from the hotel right next door to the venue. It was a place called Hallandale, Florida, which was, 30 minutes from Miami, something like that. So I said, well, they're probably all staying there, and he'll probably come out at some point. So let me go over there. So I went in the lobby, and sure enough, there he comes in yellow socks and glasses looking for an ironing board. So I gave him my tapes and said, I'm an admirer, and I hope you enjoy my stuff. And he was very cool. And then the show started. It was fun. There was probably 30 people in the audience because, first of all, it was promoted badly, wrong name. And second, it was a tropical storm warning, and most people were probably like, screw it, I'm not going to go drive in a tropical storm and get killed. and so it was very small number of people. So it was a fun show how he interacted, and then we got to hang out with him a little bit afterwards, and that's where I met Patty Palazzo, and we've been friends ever since. And then a few months later, I think it was, he and Patty contact me and say he wanted to sell my first solo album, 9 demos on a 4-track on Trust the Process. So that was really thrilling because, that is my Beatles from my growing up years. So to have that kind of acknowledgement from somebody whose music has shaped you from such a young age was just the most amazing thing. So, and then some years later, my company represented Duran for like licensing and different things, and Warren and I became really good friends, and I've run into all of them, and talk to Wendy every so often, and so there's a long history with them and long relationships with them. Caddy's one of my best friends for a long, long time. What was the question again? I completely cut off.
I got to listen. I was like, this is just so cool. It's always tremendously awesome when you can work with people that you've admired for so long. It just makes the whole project and process of doing everything just that much sweeter.
Yeah, I mean, he's always been encouraging, and it's interesting because that first album, which was done on a borrowed 4-track cassette recorder and was part of my first Grammy-nominated record, I listened back to it for the first time in years on a plane a few years ago, and I'm listening to it. I'm like, man, if I didn't know any better, I would think that the guy who made this was going to kill himself. Like, it sounded so dark to me. But at the time that I made it, I was not happy. And I had a tumor in my chest the size of a fist unknowingly. I had all these pains, but I didn't have it like suicidal thoughts. I've never been at all that type of person. But it sounds so dark and unhappy. And he was going through stuff at the time, I remember, and I think he could kind of relate to it in some ways because he was having some rough issues and, with like getting sober and all these things. Mm-hmm. So, and then when I released my second album, Ivy Catatonia, which I recorded on a borrowed 4-track as well during my 6 months of chemo, I did a box set with medical products, and he had it on display in like his office and stuff, which was kind of neat. And then he came out with that Retreat to Art box set, which looks surprisingly similar to mine. So he's been great. And when I got my first nomination, he wrote me the nicest letter and said he was proud of me and all this stuff. So yeah, it's been cool.
So cool.
Yeah. Yes, it is. Speaking of the process with everything, and I know there was some darkness, as you were just saying, pertaining, just kind of came out, the human emotions. When you're going through your highs and lows, how do you stay leveled? How do you stay motivated?
It's funny you ask that because up until about 2 weeks ago, I had no idea. I did this interview with a podcast, which is a very positive podcast. Mm-hmm. And she asked a similar question. And then at the end of it, I realized that I kind of do this thing where I look for happiness like all the time, even in the most minute things. So if I read something or something pisses me off or I get frustrated with something, I'll go outside and look at the mountains, or I'll turn on Noel Gallagher's song Holy Mountain, which is like a happy pill, or I'll go downstairs and I'll eat a tomato or something. You know what I mean? So like, being in the arts, entertainment business, you're surrounded by all kinds of negative, crazy stuff, and having gone through certain things, they impact you without you really realizing it. So after a while, you get really tired of pretty much any negative thing. You just want to erase it. You just want to get rid of it. You just want to delete it like a crazy Twitter user. You just block. Mm-hmm. So to kind of stay sane, I look for the happiness and beauty in pretty much anything that I can reach for. Even the most minute things. There's a thing of dry flowers on my desk here, and just looking at that, at the colors and the shapes and things, that does something to me. But even the simplest things. So, it seems like it's a constant effort because you're just surrounded by so many kind of predatory people and personalities that it does take effort to stay positive, in this profession and world. I mean, look at all this. I mean, look at how the news are designed. They're all designed to freak you out with all these like, so and so got blown up, so and so got killed, so and so got. Well, isn't there anything positive in the news? Because a train wreck stops cars. Mm-hmm. Look, and they understand that that's how they monetize. Freak mm-hmm. people out, clickbait, etc. So you're constantly bombarded with conflict. It's like conflict has become currency, and it's become so profitable that they're just like hitting you on the head with it all the time. So
that's a good statement. Yeah, I feel that way too. It's like everything in the media is just like very sensationalized, and I just like, wow, do we have to constantly see like almost 20 minutes of negativity, and then we follow it up with maybe 2 minutes or 3 minutes of something really cool and happy? It's like, can we sprinkle more of that throughout the entire news segment?
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't sell, so they have to freak you out to make you think like your life is somehow going to be impacted, so you're going to click. Mm-hmm. and then it ends up being an article from like 1996 that they're just referencing or something. That drives me mad. They're like, man gives birth to giraffe. Really? And then it's like, you look at the date and it's from like 1935, and it was from,
oh my God.
It was from the Inquirer, written by Bat Boy or something. The famous Bat Boy.
Yeah. On Weekly World News.
Exactly.
Some of those are so funny.
Yeah, they're pretty entertaining, but it's kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, speaking of entertainment, I know you've scored several films. What is the creative process like for scoring a film versus releasing just a studio album or track? Go ahead.
I often think visually with music, whether it's for a short film or whatever it is. I don't know. I'm kind of a student of cinema as well, so I like to write with imagery. When you're scoring something to picture, you try to capture the mood of what the characters are doing and what the imagery is trying to say. And you have to keep in mind of where the scene is going and where the story is going to create tension or to create the opposite of that. So it's a different process because you have to adapt to what's happening in front of you, and then create the sonics to match. Because if you have a scene of, and there's a short film I scored a few years ago called Interloper, it's a sci-fi thing. The soundtrack will probably come out soon. If you have a guy who's just time traveled and he's in the desert you want to have kind of this openness, mysterious kind of thing driving the scene, whereas you're not going to put polka music. That would just kind of be strange. Although there are times when something completely unexpected works when you sync music to film. So like Miami Vice was the absolute genius at this.
Yes.
They would have a scene where there'd be a gunfight, and they would play, rather than play action music or heavy metal music or some kind of hip hop thing like they do today, they would maybe have a really subtle electronic Peter Gabriel song, which would amplify the tension so much more and in such an unusual way than any obvious choice of like a metal tune or a rock tune or a hip hop thing. So that's really cool. Speaking of Duran, like Layer Cake.
Mm-hmm.
If you've seen that scene where they use Ordinary World and that really violent scene, it's incredible how they use a positive song like that in such a violent scene where people are getting killed, and how they edited and mixed the track. It's absolute genius. Like, I love stuff like that. Miami Vice was just the best at that. So, when you're writing
Cold
and it's
Case.
not the picture.
Did you ever see
Cold Case?
Eris? Yeah,
No,
they
what's
did
that?
that too.
Really?
It's basically, it was in the '90s, and they had several Duran tracks too as part of it, and they did a very good
No, I'll
job
have
of
to
mixing
check that out.
songs and the
What
solving
kind of film is that?
old. It's actually TV, actually, but definitely similar blending of the film with the music. I recommend it. Very good show.
I'll check it out for sure. I love that.
Yeah.
But when you're writing a tune, you're just trying to either capture a story or a feeling, or you hear a hook from somebody else and then you build on it, you change it, or a riff or a lyric. I like to start with the lyrics first, because the lyrics just always seem to create I hear melodies and chords and things much more in a much more interesting way when I hear a phrase or write down a phrase, a lyric or something. If I start with the music ends up kind of being a little too obvious. Whereas if it's a lyric, then it kind of goes places where most people like to do it the other way around. But it can be either way. I was listening to the first Cutting Crew record, and I heard this lyric, "Unfinished Business," in one of the songs, and then just hearing that lyric totally sparked an idea for a song and a melody. So it's a totally different process, but it ties in.
Yeah, I love how you brought up Miami Vice. That's one of my favorite shows growing up. It was like the style, the music, the imagery, everything. Just like it impacted me, because just even now, it's like when I see something related to Miami Vice, and I see like aspects of it just in different parts of entertainment. Whether it's still fashion, whether it's just image, and even with the movie, even though I think the Miami Vice movie could have been slightly better, but I
was
still,
in that movie.
Really? Oh my God!
Yeah, it was a horrible movie. I mean, Miami Vice was so art school in so many ways, where they would have like a green wall and they would have Crockett wear green pants to match, and it was such an art school show. I just absolutely love it. And I'm actually friends with Don's son Jesse and Sandra Santiago and a few of them. But I used to see them film that show when I was a kid, and but I was in the movie. They cast me for 4 Rules. And if you find me, I'll send you a gift. So.
Well, the way it plays on Cinemax, I will have no problems doing that.
I mean,
because that's interesting.
The only good thing about that film is it was funny when they cast Colin Farrell. I was like, oh, this could be cool. And then when they cast Jamie Foxx, I'm like, yeah, he's not. Yeah, how's he gonna do Tubbs? Mm-hmm. And then it turned out that I liked Jamie Foxx better than Colin Farrell. Colin Farrell sounded like a robot in most of that movie to me, but it was more emphasis on Tubbs than Crockett. But like, the only thing I liked about it is that it had that Michael Mann cinematic thing happen.
Yeah.
You know, all the way through. But it just wasn't Miami Vice. You can't just change the characters because it's cooler. You know, Edward James Olmos was like so incredible as Castillo.
Yes,
he
was.
and then they, yeah, you know, he was just amazing. And then they completely changed.
He was in Battlestar Galactica, right? I think.
Yeah.
He was so good in that.
Yeah, he was Adama. He was like a space Castillo in a way. You know, he would do the stares. You know, he would look at people when he was mad. You know, kind of scared. You know. I was on set with Colin Farrell and Jamie Foxx for like 4 days, and Jamie Foxx was gangster rapping in Bill Cosby's voice. It was really funny. And they were both really, really nice. And it's just, you know, you can't remake that magic. I actually worked on a Netflix continuation of Miami Vice with a producing partner who was an executive producer on Curb Your Enthusiasm. And it was, it was a very gritty thing. Sandra Santiago loved it, who played Gina.
Yeah.
But it's been difficult trying to get it into the right channels. But, you know, it followed that traditional production style and, you know, more of a continuation with all the original people. But it's basically sitting in my laptop.
Oh.
Maybe we can get it made. You know.
Yes, I will wish it into existence. It's like, got to get it made.
It would be awesome.
So are you working on any...
Can I ask a quick Colin Farrell question?
Yeah.
So did you like Colin Farrell as the Penguin in the latest Batman movie?
Oh my God! So when I saw
I had no
idea it was him. Yeah, I had no idea it was him, and then only when I was watching behind the scenes footage, I was like, "What? That was insane! He was unbelievable." I loved that movie. How they did that film. I thought it was absolutely genius. The design of it, the way
Colin
the
shines
vibe.
in certain roles, but in others maybe not so much. But
I totally agree. But it blew my mind when I learned it was him. I couldn't believe it. He was incredible, absolutely incredible. Yeah.
Sorry,
awesome.
Trace, I didn't mean to take away your questions, but I had to ask a Colin Farrell question.
That's no problem. Are you, Eric? Are you working on any film projects now, or anything coming up?
There are 2 documentaries that are in prep. One is a World War II thing. The other one, I can't tell you what it is. On the film side, that's pretty much it on that. But there's always something around the corner, so that could change in a week. You never know.
Yeah. Well, that's all the questions I have.
No, you can ask as many as you like if you have any spontaneous thoughts. So it's up to you.
But I'm curious how your battle with cancer and how it's inspired you to help with this cause. I'm actually taking part in Pelotonia this year for my first time, and I know that's a cause for cancer as well. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, you know, I counsel and talk to a lot of people who are going through it, and there's this. One of the issues I have with treatments is that, you know, never lie to your patients. But you don't have to tell them everything. So, for example, if somebody's terminal, you don't need to really tell them they're terminal. I think you should be as positive as possible, but spin the news not lying to them, but spin it in a positive way. Say, well, look, it's, what you have is it's going to create difficulty. It's it's a battle. Cancer is a battle. But these are your options for treatments, and choose the treatment or don't choose the treatment, but never give up hope. Well, what are the stats with this? Stats don't matter. Stats are stats. Everybody's different. Everybody reacts differently. If you want to do the treatments, we continue the treatments and just do what you have to do. Rather than be like, well, 50% of people die from this, or 90% of people die from this, and it's going to spread, and this and that, and blah blah blah. I don't agree with that at all. So that always bothered me. I would see it in other people, especially because I remember my first day of chemo, I met a guy who had a brain tumor, was given 2 months to live, 18 years before he told me. So there's always the exception to the rule, and doctors understand the physics of everything, much like weathermen understand the physics of the weather. So you predict, and a lot of conclusions are fairly constant within the certain parameters that are going on in your body. And so, sometimes the obvious thing is like, well, this is going to spread, it's aggressive, this cancer, always, the statistics say this, but that doesn't help the patient. I think you should always be positive. So like for me, I try to be as positive as possible with as many people who are going through it, because I also feel like, if you're around and you're alive, what's the point of existing if you're not creating ripples? That's how you live on. You create ripples, and those ripples affect different people, and that's how you are remembered and how you exist. Otherwise, you collect wealth, you collect cars, you collect this, you collect that out of vanity. What's your purpose? Like, what is the purpose? To just consume? You know what I mean? So I make it a point to be as positive as possible with people who are going not just through that, but whatever is kind of a health issue, that is a concern, or because having gone through those experiences, creates empathy. I've always been empathetic, but with those experiences, there's just, people need hope to just also just feel like their purpose, there is a purpose. Sometimes when you're faced with those experiences, you're like, what have I done? I've done nothing, or I wish I could have done this. Yeah, it's very scary. Right? Yeah. Exactly. It's very scary. And it's actually a lot worse for family and friends than for the patient. For the patient, you feel, what you're feeling. But family and friends, they're kind of helpless because they want to understand what's going on inside you mentally, physically, and they can't. And sometimes they overdo it with the caressing and well, let me get you this, let me get you that. And it's like, just let me be. I just want to throw out. Just leave me alone. So there's often a disconnect, understanding between.
You threw up 18 times in one day. I read that while I was listening to something that you were talking about that.
Yeah, that's true.
That's crazy.
18 times in one day. And that was pretty bad. But it's, a little more empathy is important. Sometimes people have to go through the worst things to really understand those things, which is sad, because we live in a society where we're all kind of glued to our bubble, our phones or whatever it is, and they're suffering, and people who need the smallest things, which, you pay $6 for a Starbucks coffee, but you won't download a song for 99 cents, which could change your life. It's a very unbalanced kind of way of life, and then there's people who, just give them a call and check on them. And I mean, I've had friends who had breast cancer and things like that, and I would check on them all the time because some of them may not have had anybody to, listen to them, and it just helps them to hear from somebody who's been through a lot of that stuff, to hear, just do the treatment, and see what happens, and, it's going to suck, and, you're going to need a port, and chemo is going to make you feel bad, but, just got to do what you got to do, and don't listen to statistics, don't listen to any doom and gloom, just go for it. And on many occasions, it makes them feel better, because it's realistic, but it's positive, rather than being realistic and negative, because, that affects the immune system. So if you're upset and you're depressed, it'll affect your immune system and make it harder to fight stuff off. I just think that there should always be a positive spin on that without deceiving anybody.
Well, it can be a lonely road going through,
really lonely.
Cancer.
Yeah.
Therapy and all the pain and everything. It can be very lonely, and any little voice from a friend, or
Yeah, it's kind of like what we talked about. It's like we said in the beginning, like that little harmony apart in New Moon on Monday,
right.
which defined so many things for me. Just that little harmony, one little caring gesture for somebody who's going through something can change their outlook or create some sort of positive thing for them to cling on if they're in really bad shape, or even just going through something that they can be cured of. Little nuances, can really go a long way.
I found Tracy's question. Yay!
Oh,
okay.
And also, by the way, after your question, we need to talk Duran songs, man. Come on, we gotta talk some music.
Well, this one's Duran
related. I'm surprised you guys hadn't done that before I called.
We did for a second,
Yeah, we she had a question about Silver Moon, that it was dreamy and abstract, and Simon does similar on one of his songs. Did you remember this question, Tracy? This was your question, I'm sure.
Yes, I know. I pulled it up. So basically, I was talking about the song Silver Moon and how I totally enjoyed the dreamy ambiance to it. And I was thinking about how some of the Duran Duran, like the earlier songs, had that similar quality. So I was just kind of curious of how that style, has it influenced your sound, or does it influence?
It influences me with every single thing that I do. Like at the end of that tune, I do a harmony part that is not expected, and I have it at a level. Like one of the things I always like about Simon's harmonies is that sometimes they were at the same level as the melody. And it almost makes it an alternate melody in a way. So that their influence is in everything, literally everything. It's and that especially, like that harmony thing was completely, whether it was subconscious or not, probably subconscious. Like it was straight out of the Le Bon school for singing. So yeah, totally. Everything. There's some subconscious, some direct thing, reaction and influence from everything I do to some degree from them, especially vocally. I'd be a very different singer if I'd never heard them. So yeah, absolutely.
Did you have any other questions?
Kirk, do you have any questions? I was going to let you ask a question, just kind of go back and forth.
Uh,
How about I ask you
I
guys some questions?
Hey, go
oh,
for it.
why not? No one
All right.
asks
Well,
us questions.
since this is a Duran related thing, favorite album?
Notorious.
Delicious. What about you? What about you, Kirk?
I have two favorite albums. One is the Wedding album and Future Past. To be honest, those two I just can't.
Excellent.
Uh,
Excellent. Favorite song off of Notorious?
For me, it's a toss-up between the title track and Vertigo,
Cool.
and also Skin Trade. I love the remix of Skin Trade. Quick funny story about that
one?
song.
Which remix?
The Parisian mix.
That's a good one.
Quick, very, very short story. When I used to work at Sears, it was like my first job. I worked in the junior department. So one day when I came in, I was like, they put me over there and I was going through some of their music and I found that song on one of their, and I just turned it up and it started drawing people over to the junior department to buy. And that at one point in time was an area that wasn't having a lot of good sales. So I figured out the key was whenever I would come in, I would put that song on and then some others to follow it up, kind of turn it up just a little bit louder than what the mall wanted, but it helped sales. So that's what,
that's interesting.
Yeah. I was like, there's a method here.
That's very interesting.
That's awesome.
Kirk, what are your favorites? What are your favorites from Future Past and the Wedding album?
Future Past, I would have to say, Hammerhead is my favorite song on that album, and the reason is because
Cool.
I relate to the Hammerhead that I mean personally I have a anxiety disorder and it's linked to trauma, and I constantly have a hammerhead, and so I constantly have to like tell myself I'm safe and I'm gonna be okay, and that song I really connected to, and the Ivorian doll part of that song was absolutely just really great.
Yeah.
That it was just, I don't know, it was an inspiring song, and I really connected to it. And then the other one I really liked is More Joy, with the collaboration with
Sounds like a video game.
Well, and I have a fascination with Japan and Tokyo, and I watch anime, and my daughter's into a lot of Japanese stuff, and it's just a very fun, light song, and the music video is absolutely fabulous. I just love how fun
I
it
love
is.
that.
Yeah, and I've never seen Duran Duran as anime or cartoon before. I mean, that was a treat. It really was. And then let's see, Wedding album. I mean, Ordinary World is my favorite song of all time. I mean, that song. Um, I feel like part of my quest in my life has been trying to find an ordinary world from the world I've been given. And the guitar parts in that by Warren are just out of this world. That song has a beauty and grace, and the video sort of matches along with that you don't see in every Duran Duran song. It's just so unique, so well written.
Their biggest hit.
Man, it's so beautiful.
Which is interesting because their biggest hit came in the 90s, not in the
80s. Yeah. And then the
what do you
other
think
one
of Thank You? Oh, sorry, go on.
Oh, the other one I was going to say on the Wedding album was Come Undone. That's a really, really great song too. Very, the imagery and the lyrics, just the talent that Simon has in singing it. What were you going to say?
No, I was going to ask you what you guys thought of Thank You.
Personally, I know it's a record that has gotten beat up over the last, like,
I personally
throughout
don't
the years.
understand that. Yeah.
I don't get it either.
I think it's amazing, personally.
Mm-hmm.
This whole "It's the Worst" record ever
White
made.
Lines is
Like,
one of
just
my favorite songs, actually, on that album.
it's incredible, and just the Perfect Day and Crystal Ship, and just
Perfect.
It's
Day.
cool. It sounds like a
really
band to me. Like, that's what I like the most about it, is that it sounds like a band with like drummers and it just sounds like a band. So haters can suck it for all I care.
Exactly. You took the words right out of my mouth.
There's no reason to pan that album. It was bold, and it was. I mean, listen to the Public Enemy track. I mean, that's what Guts to do.
That's what I was thinking. It's like, that's what I love. That's what I enjoy. I enjoy when musicians take risks. I don't like when people always play it safe.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a time when you should, change it up. Think outside the box, take that risk, and see where it goes. But I know there's that segment of people that want things to sound the same every single time. They don't want anything, slightly different. And that album, to me, I think it's great. I think just the way.
Cool.
Yeah, I always did. And it's like,
one of my favorite songs on that too. What a great song.
And I enjoy Ball of Confusion.
What about Pop Trash? Do you think it deserves hate?
No, not at all.
People hate Pop Trash
great.
too, some people.
No, that's crazy. There's so many good songs on there. That song, "The Sun Doesn't Shine Forever," I heard it once and I could never listen to it again. It sounds like vomit to me, personally. It just sounds really cheesy. It's a good song, but it's just like, really? Do you have to go in that place? But I love, like, Hallucinating Elvis and Playing with Uranium, and I think Someone Else Not Me lyrically is like some of his best stuff, and there's a lot of good stuff on there. It's quite good. Lady Xanax is like incredible. But that Sun Doesn't Shine Forever, it's something, it just rubs me wrong. I can't go there. Yeah.
Yeah, there are some songs like that. Not every song.
Not a lot of them. Not a lot of them. I mean, the records are pretty strong. I mean, probably the weakest record. Liberty, I thought, was a bit over the top in certain places, but I love Violence of Summer and Sirius, My Antarctica, and some other things. I like Red Carpet Massacre. To me, I could see what they were trying to do with it, this kind of minimalistic electro thing, but it just feels unfinished to me. That's kind of the vibe I got from that.
Right.
I think Falling Down is a great song, really well written, but like, I hate the production on it. It's like, why would you make it sound like a 90s boy band when you've got a really good drummer and a really good band in there, and played like the drums off of a keyboard? Like, I never understood that. But I can go on and on. I'll defend them to the death, but I'll
favorites too.
What did you say? Paper Gods what?
Paper Gods is one of my favorite albums as well. I really like many of the songs on that one. Sunset Garage was my favorite song on that one.
Yeah, it took me a long time to listen to that, a few years. Then when I finally sat down and listened to it, I'm like, wow, this is really, there's a lot of really good stuff on here. Title track is great. I love, what is it? Denali Rogers, Janelle Monáe. Pressure Off was good. And even like stuff like Northern Lights, I thought was really cool. Have you heard that one? It's like a bonus track.
Is that the one where they're walking in the snow in the beginning?
That's the one. You know what's incredible on that is What Are the Chances? that melody and that chorus,
that is incredible too.
how it explodes, it gives me goosebumps, you know, and the quartet is playing on there. It
does.
That song is incredible. Really. They did a really good live version of that on, was it Graham Norton? If you ever get the chance to watch that, they just nailed it. Sounded so good.
Oh, wow.
Check that out.
Cool.
Yeah. What other albums? Look at what else. Medazzaland. Medazzaland's got a lot of good stuff, but the problem with that record, it sounds really, it sounds like almost everything's looped on there. It lacks a lot of feeling. It just sounds like it was pieced together a bit too much. But, you know, stuff like Out of My Mind is great, and there's a lot of great stuff on there. I like every track on there.
That's still one of my all-time favorite songs from them. The song, the video, just everything about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's very Arcadia, that track and that video.
It's the only reason I'll watch the remake of the Saint movie.
Yeah, the ending credits.
Yes.
I mean, I was introduced to the idea of a sex doll with Electric Barbarella. I mean, how awesome is that?
Yeah. I think they shot that intro in Super 8. Pretty darn cool. All that color in there. What was that? Ellen Von Unwerth, I think, directed that one.
Right.
Really cool, cool vibes. Yeah. What other records do they have? I'm trying to remember now. Big Thing. Big Thing's good.
Oh, Big Thing is very good.
Yeah. And then there's what else are we missing? Is that everything? Of course, Rio's a masterpiece, and the first record's great.
Duran Duran, their first album, right?
And of course, that's the Ragged Tiger.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
Ragged Tiger, right?
That was great. These guys, they don't get their due. They've created all the stuff they've managed to continue, but they'll always have a stigma because they were so huge. They were the biggest band of that decade, and a lot of critics try to rewrite that. That people will always go to that.
It was their sixth album.
Time period. Always go to that time period. So it'll always be a stigma. It's like Michael J. Fox will always be Marty McFly. And Arnold will always be the Terminator. These are like moments in time that broke culture and created this crack, this impact. So they don't.
Duran is always hungry like the wolf, right?
Right, exactly. So they'll always have that stigma, but in the later years, it seems they've been getting more respect than they were getting prior, because all of the innovations and all of the influences and influence they've had on people are finally starting to become mainstream. So that's a good thing.
Yeah, we an interesting research study that I did. I've been collecting points of data over time. Is since the year 2000, there have been many references to Duran Duran in TV and movies and books, and
they were in Cocaine Bear.
Year 2000. I'm sorry.
Did you see Cocaine Bear? There's a big Sam the Ragged Tiger poster, a big Simon.
Oh yeah, I saw it. I was there.
They were in Stranger Things too. Yeah, I mean it's.
Oh yeah.
I missed the Duran Duran reference in Cocaine Bear. I loved Cocaine Bear. That was so funny. Where is that
hilarious.
reference?
It was in the bedroom of like the little girl, I think it was.
Yeah, the little girl.
Oh, that is too
funny.
I
my company licensed. I remember we licensed them a few things to what was that? Medium. Do you remember that show Medium that was on NBC?
Yes. Mhm.
Yeah.
So we licensed some song to that. We licensed Girls on Film to Vogue. We got, was it 2012 Olympics when it was held in London? We got them interested in Duran. Wow. There's a lot of stuff.
Now, they've been licensed on video games, haven't they?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That wasn't my company, though. Somebody else.
Okay.
But yeah, they're everywhere.
I enjoyed their inspiration and enjoyment with technology. You know, as far as virtual reality and augmented reality,
Right.
It's fascinating. I'm in an instructional design classes now as part of grad school, and the past few weeks we've been learning more and more about VR and AR. And it's like every time I'm reading a research study or a peer-reviewed article, I keep going back to just different things the band has done with those two items of technology. It's just fascinating.
Yeah, it's. I mean, the whole first download thing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how many people actually know that? I don't think a lot of people know that. I think most people would be completely surprised to hear that.
Electric Barbara.
You know, there should.
Is the song.
Yeah, there should be some kind of exploitation of that, because that's what started it all. So we can all blame the band for all of that digital chaos, I guess, which changed everything.
Mhm.
You know, but also they had this thing during the Pop Trash tour with 3D projections over the audience. You guys remember that? It was like the first of its kind. It was like an interactive, some kind of projection, digital projection, live thing. I forget what it was called.
I think I read something about that.
Yeah, just a lot of really interesting innovations that the majority of people have absolutely no idea about, which I find a shame.
Mhm.
You know.
And there was the Second Life concert as well, right? But
is that still going on?
Whether that
Second
was
Life?
the first. Yeah, it's still going on. People do log into it and play. You can still
funny.
get
I
to
remember
Duran Duran's thing too, but there's hardly anybody there anymore. So
yeah, it was so funny. I remember they did a thing with Warren's turtle, and he's riding the turtle in Second Life. Like, I remember seeing some animation somebody had posted. It was the funniest thing. He's riding Hugo, his turtle. It was hilarious. Yeah.
I actually met Warren in Second Life, and we chatted like for a while. And he was in his pirate costume with the little parrot on his shoulder.
Yeah. That's what it was.
So
he was wearing a pirate hat, riding Hugo.
Yeah,
it was hilarious.
Really interesting. Yeah, he was really nice. Really nice.
Yeah,
he was just learning.
He's a nice dude. Yeah, he's an interesting guy. I haven't talked to him in a while, but who knows?
Well, it's a pleasure to talk to you, and we so appreciate your time. Thank you, Eric.
Same here, man. It was a fun discussion, and I enjoyed it, and hope you guys have a good time.
For those listening, I definitely recommend buying Eric's album, Terra. It's a really fabulous album. So there you go. I gave you another plug. So.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks again, and please let's keep talking about Star Trek, and as it keeps playing out. So
definitely.
But all right, well, thanks, and you have a good evening, Eric, and thanks, Tracy, for
my pleasure, guys.
joining.
Yeah, great talking with you both.
Nice talking to you guys, and have a good forthcoming weekend.
Oh, you too.
You too. Take care.
Cheers. We'll talk.
Bye.
All right. Cheers. Bye.